Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another X-Files episode. This is David, and the episode tonight is the 16th episode of the first season, Young at Heart. And oh boy, this one's a little weird. Um, I don't really care for this one too much. The concepts espoused in it are just strange. It's a monster of the week, but again, barely so. We're dealing with a serial killer, which certainly are monsters. Excuse me. But in terms of the X Files, I require my monster to be a little bit more monstrous. In this case, we're dealing with a man with a salamander hand. Not even an evil salamander hand, because he's an evil guy to begin with. So, yeah, that's the antagonist. He had a procedure done where uh, they use like salamander DNA or something, and they regrew his hand. It's actually kind of lame, all things said and done. I mean, the concept is an interesting concept, but in terms of an X-Files monster of the week, I mean, it falls kind of short. He just has a weird hand. And other than that, he's a normal person. Like, well, he's not really a normal person, but I mean, like, he doesn't have any, from what I can recall, like, crazy abilities or powers or anything. He's just a intelligent killer. And yeah, that's about it. So we'll get into this episode. So it starts in 1989, and this inmate is kind of wheeling around the asylum in Pennsylvania. And he hears screaming coming from the infirmary. And he sees the prison doctor amputating this guy's arm. And the guy tells him that he's dead. And he threatens him with a scalpel. And the guy goes off. But he sees the guy blink. He sees what is it? What's the guy's name? Barnett. He sees Barnett blink, so he knows he's alive, even though he's told he was dead. 4 years later, there's a jewelry store robbery, and some evidence leads Mulder to believe that this killer Barnett is back. Who's a person who allegedly died in prison 4 years ago. They're going back and forth on what to do about this, and it's basically like a cat and mouse game where Barnett kind of taunts Mulder because Mulder's the one who busted him. He taunts Mulder, and he starts killing off people Mulder cares about. First, this supervisor, Reggie, that he'd been working with, and then some other people as well. And he starts going after, I believe, taking photos of Mulder and like sending them to him. So it's an issue. It's beginning to drive Mulder a little crazy. Meanwhile, Sculler's looking into like the cause of death and finds out that the doctor who was working out there wasn't a licensed doctor anymore, and that they talk to these other guys and they find out that he was working on a treatment for children with progeria. Not really sure what that is, other than it's the premature aging disease, which is pretty horrible, all things considered. And he was working on ways of fixing that. And he was going ahead with human trials when they weren't ready for it, so he kind of got canned as a doctor because the other doctors that were working on it were like, you can't do that, and they reported him. Meanwhile, Scully thinks she hears things in her apartment, and Barnett is in fact there. So I guess that is one ability. He kind of sneak around really good. They find out that Barnett had his arm replaced with a salamander hand due to an experimental project that the guy who was researching the progeria thing was doing. Deep Throat explains that they plan on meeting with him to get his work, because he's the only one that has that work. He stole it from the doctor that did it to him. And meanwhile, Mulder has a sting operation at this cello recital because they figure that Barnett heard the answering machine where he knew where Scully was going to be. Barnett shows up. There's a firefight. Mulder guns him down. And the whole idea behind this was Mulder had this guy dead to rights in terms of he could have shot him, and instead he hesitated, and Barnett shot another guy, killing them. This time, he doesn't hesitate. He shoots him in the head and brings him down. And they lament that the CIA, who was looking for, they're trying to resuscitate him to get him to talk, but he won't. Well, he doesn't shoot him in the head. He just shoots him. He goes down and he dies on the table basically. They try to get the location of the research, but he doesn't give it up. And the episode ends with it zooming into a locker. Um, which suggests that there is the secrets are hidden in this locker, but um, you may never find them. So that's a thing. This episode I'm going to give a 2 out of 10. It's interesting if you like that sort of development with some more of Mulder's backstory, but I'm going to rate this in terms of just the villain, who's a fine serial killer, but if he was just a serial killer, like, that Mulder had to thwart, and he didn't have a salamander hand, I think I would give this more points. But the fact that he has a salamander hand is just like the dumbest thing ever. It I guess it might be a little stronger than a normal hand, but other than that, it's just kind of like a gooey glove hand that the guy has to wear for the thing, and it doesn't, like, it's just lame. It's up there with, in terms of like the Jersey Devil. I mean, at least there's a little play back and forth. But I did not particularly care for this episode. It just, like, the whole concept is just kind of silly. Um, and while I appreciate that the bad guy is at least a serial killer to begin with, or some sort of murderer. I forget exactly what his crimes were, but he's basically, your typical murderer type character. Um, but yeah, it just falls flat in terms of, like, what the X-Files could be. Fluke man, this is not. Well, anyway, tune in next time, folks, when we deal with the episode EBE. And EBE stands for Extraterrestrial Biological Entity. Will there be any in the episode? Well, we'll find out. Tune in next time. All right, folks. Good night.